Driving crazy.
My name is Shanice, and I either want to go into the hospitality industry, or I want to study more of the Polynesian culture, like become a photojournalist.
You can do both.
My name is Sheridan, and I want to go into psychology.
You're gonna analyze me. You can help me.
My name is Tatiana, and I want to go into business law.
Business law, good. Well, that's exciting. How many are juniors and how many seniors? Juniors, raise your hand. Seniors, raise your hand. Okay, you guys are way ahead of me, because when I was at your level, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I lived in Huntington Beach, California. I was born there, and all I wanted to do was go surfing. And I went from Huntington Beach High School to, I had two choices. I could go to Caltech, or I could go to University of California, Berkeley. And so I happened to be really good at math and chemistry, so I was going to I went to Berkeley with the idea I was going to be a petroleum engineer, drill oil wells. I didn't know really why I wanted to drill oil wells, but there's a lot of oil wells around Huntington Beach, and they smell like oil, so that would be pretty good. So I went to Cal Berkeley, and after 2 years, I found out that all the petroleum engineers either were going to Saudi Arabia or Oklahoma. No, sir. So I changed my major to math and chemistry and graduated and went off and found out that I really didn't like math and chemistry because of the things that they were doing. I had no idea. And so I had an uncle who was a career diplomat. He graduated from college, went in the Foreign Service, and he was traveled around the world at different embassies around the world, and it really looked like an exciting job, and so I thought, that's what I want to do. So I went to take the Foreign Service examination at the State Department. He said, no, you have to have a master's degree. So I thought, okay, I got a master's degree in economics, and go do that. So I graduated from college in January, and I couldn't get into the graduate program until September, so I was a lifeguard in Newport Beach at the time. And so I thought, well, I have a chance to go on a transatlantic yacht race. And between then, I'd be back in time to start school. So I took off on a yacht called the Morning Star, which at one time held the record from Los Angeles to Honolulu in 9 days and 10 hours. And I took the Morning Star, we went down and went through it was in the West Coast, we had to get around to the East Coast to start the race across the Atlantic. Got on the boat, sailed through the Panama Canal. The first night out of the Panama Canal, we hit a reef and sank. So, oh my gosh. So all the things that I had in my life were on that boat. I came back to Newport. I called the lifeguard chief from Panama City, and I said, Bob, I said, the boat sank, I'm wiped out. I said, I need to get back and get my job when I get back. He said, oh yeah, come on, we got a job for you at the lifeguard department. So I took a bus from Panama to Newport Beach, and it was really great because you hear about all the people get sick traveling through Mexico. So I thought, God, I don't want to get sick. So all I ate was, I'd always find a fresh tortilla stand and eat fresh tortillas and drink beer out of the bottle. I think, well, I can't get sick doing that. Got back to Newport Beach, and as luck would have it, two friends of mine that I grew up with surfing, I had one of them from Oahu and one from San Diego that I'd grown up surfing with, had just gotten back from Hawaii, and they said they found this restaurant concept that they thought would be really a great success on the mainland. And they wanted to start a restaurant, but they didn't know how to cook. Well, I'm Italian, and all the Italian men know how to cook. So they wanted me to be their partner. Never thought about this in my life. I never had any business courses. You guys are in accounting. I had no idea what a balance sheet was. It didn't even occur to me. And I was a mathematician and a chemist, and a surfer. So anyway, the three of us, the idea, and this is real entrepreneurism. The idea is that we'd start this little restaurant company, and that we'd each work 4 months and take 8 months off. So one of us would always be there. And we'd take 8 months and go surfing. So I drew the short straw, and I got the first 4 months. And I had no idea how to run the business, but from the first day I realized I had a passion for restaurant business. For something about the restaurant business was just perfect for me. And this is one of the things that you want to remember. Those of you who want to go into business, have a passion for whatever you're doing. If you have a passion enough for what you're doing, that you do that whether you got paid or not, that's what you want to be doing. Because that's the way it was with me in the restaurant business from the first day. Anyway, we opened a restaurant called the Chart House. Everybody ever heard of the Chart House? Well, back in those days, that was the first thing that, it was very innovative because in the old days, it was old people sitting down at a restaurant, old people like me sitting down waiting on you. You get yesterday's mashed potatoes and the day before's meatloaf with some gravy on the top, and that was it. Well, we had extraordinary quality food. It was a very simple menu. We just did a few things. We bought the best steak we could buy. We cut the steaks ourselves, the finest we could have, baked potato, artichoke, and a salad. And that was the whole thing. And it just hit like a bangle. When we opened the restaurant, when we went to go to open the restaurant, I didn't have any money because everything I had was on the boat and it sank. I was living on a friend's boat, so I had to go to the bank and try to borrow some money. I needed $4,000 for my share of the starting up of the business. So I went to the bank and I filled out a financial statement. And I put my name on it and my address across the street on a boat. And my assets, I had 2 surfboards and a bicycle. And so that I signed it and I showed it to the guy. He says, "You want to borrow $4,000 and you have 2 surfboards and a bicycle?" I said, "Yeah, but I got college degrees. Does that make a difference? What are you going to do with the money?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go in the restaurant business." He says, "Even if you had the assets to back up the loan, I wouldn't loan you the money. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You don't know anything about the business. It's going to be a failure." The next day I was lifeguarding. I was driving the Jeep down. I was on surf patrol, driving the Jeep down the beach, and a friend of mine who was an attorney was running his morning exercise. I stopped and said, "Dave, I finally found something." Everybody's worried about what I was going to do. And I said, "Dave, I finally found something that I want to do." And he said, "What's that?" I said, "I'm going to go in the restaurant business." He says, "Pete, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard." So everybody tried to discourage me, and I couldn't get the money. So I had an uncle who was my dad's youngest brother, and he was born with spastic paralysis. And Uncle Bill, he could get around, but he had a tough time getting around. And but he was brilliant. He was a great investor, and he was one of my early mentors in life because he had a tough time, but he didn't let that get in his way. And so I went to Uncle Bill. I said, "Uncle Bill, I got an opportunity to go in the restaurant business, but I don't have any money." He pulled out his checkbook and wrote a check for $4,000. No agreement when I'm going to pay it back, nothing. So Uncle Bill, his name is on the building in Seabury. That when he died and they were building the secondary school, I put Uncle Bill Syracuse on there. That's with my honor to Uncle Bill. And I honor Uncle Bill every day. Anyway, so Uncle Bill gave us the money. We opened the restaurant. And I learned about accounting, I learned about balance sheet, I learned about financial statements, I learned about money in the bank. I learned everything about business in those first 4 months. The end of the first 4 months, and my partners didn't show up. They were off traveling, they were surfing. The surfers too good to show up. And so, that was in November we opened, so all the way through the first part of June, I worked every day. I cut every steak that was served, that's every piece of fish that was served. I balanced the books, I made all of the bank accounts. I worked 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day. I loved it, but I was tired. And since we were in Newport Beach, right on the waterfront, we were the hot spot. It's just one of those things that we hit the market just right. The product, one of the things that Mike was talking to you about business, whatever you're doing, you want to create a product or a service that it meets or exceeds the customer's expectations. Whatever you do, keep that in mind. What can I do to meet or exceed the customer's expectations? Followed by, you only get one chance to make the first impression. So every time that you go into whatever business you go into, psychology, medicine, whatever, you only have one chance to say, here's who I am, here's what I'm going to do, and here's what you're going to get for it, and it's going to be better than you think. You want to have whatever product or service that you have, you want to have your customer or that patient or that individual that relates to you leave the experience and say, my God, that was better than I thought it was going to be. How many of you have experienced that before in businesses and things? Whether it's an iPhone, iPad, a restaurant, or whatever it is, that was better than I thought. And you always talk about that, and that's an example that you want to keep. So then we opened, came around the 1st of June, with November, I've been working every day, and one of our customers had a yacht called the Ticonderoga, and he was going to sail to Tahiti on the Tahiti race on June 15th. So I wrote a letter to my partners. I said, if you're not here June 15th, I'm tired. I'm going to close this place down and take a vacation. I'm really tired. They showed up on June 14th, and I took off on the race to Tahiti. We still hold the record from San Diego to Papeete, 17 days, 4 hours, and it was just fantastic. I had never been to Tahiti before, and I fell in love. One of the things that my dad did to me, he put a curse on my head. During World War II, I was hard to believe that's why I was alive. He was stationed in Pearl Harbor, and he ran a machine shop for the Navy. And he kept sending me all these pictures of surfing. There's an old author from the 20s and 30s named Don Blanding. And Don Blanding wrote some beautiful stories about growing up in Hawaii in those days. And my dad gave me those books. And for the rest of my early career, I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to be a success. I wanted to go to Hawaii. And so I ended up in Tahiti. and had a great time. It was an eye-opener. I had some great Tahitian friends because they'd come to the restaurants before, so I really got into the culture early on and immediately. It was really wonderful. But then I was there for about, after we'd gotten to Tahiti, and for 2 weeks I got a telephone call, a high seas radio call from my secretary who said, Pete, you gotta get back here. It's a disaster. They're running the restaurant into the ground. They close the restaurant at midnight and have parties all night. The police have been here. It's not gonna work. So you learn about one thing. Be careful who you choose for partners. You're all gonna have a chance to have a partner someday, whether it's a marriage, or whether it's a business partner, or whether it's a friend. You want to make sure that that partner is a person of integrity, has the same values that you have, and somebody that you can rely on. Two things happen in partnerships they're just incredible. One is, if the partnership is successful, it's never your fault. It's somebody else's fault. You didn't make it successful. If it's a failure, it's your fault. And everybody's against you because it's your fault. So you got to be very careful how you choose partners. I just can't emphasize enough. Anyway, so we had a big conference.